11th, and our time says that it is 6 o'clock, so I would like to call the meeting to order at this time. Roll call finds us present. Marcia is busy with parent-teacher conferences and will be joining us a little bit later, and Ashley is on her way. Other than that, we find everyone else present. We start out with the administrative report. Superintendent Chrysler?
Thank you. I'll hit a few highlights as I do each month, and always reminding our community and our board that these reports are completed each month by our principals and directors. It's a means to show the progress that we're making in all 4 of our strategic directions. A couple of highlights here from TCU Montgomery, which really kind of hit all 3 of our elementaries. It is I Love to Read Month, which is always a really fun celebration of reading, even though we know reading is important all year long. So that's really fun, and lots of extra things that happen with it. We also have parent-teacher conferences taking place, hopefully tomorrow night and Thursday night. Hopefully the weather will hold off. We also have the Duck Cup Memorial Foundation is supporting a mental health speaker for our 7th and 8th grade students. And they are doing that, I believe, tomorrow, as well as at the high school on Wednesday. So it's, Tuesday on the 12th. And after that, our one-act play is going to be performing for our 7th and 8th graders. And our one-act play performance was phenomenal. And a great lesson on really trying to understand each person as an individual. So it'll be a great presentation and performance for our 7th and 8th grade students. Some other highlights here within our community education. The new website, as we had shared with our board a while back, for that to be kicked off, is moving along well. It has a nice clean look, and people are hopefully finding things easier. We are doing a lot of work on the results of the Profile of a Graduate survey. There's a lot of qualitative data there, and so getting that into some numerical pieces is important. And our Special Olympics continues on, and so Lane's going to be meeting with Melissa Bell, and they're meeting with representatives from Special Olympics in Minnesota about offering a track and field program here at TCU. Their meeting is next week, but doing track and field this spring or summer. So that's pretty exciting. I always had a hope that someday our football field and track would host a Special Olympics regional event, and that would really be phenomenal. Within our business office, of course, we are moving into fiscal 19, or revisions to fiscal 19 budget, and beginning the work for fiscal 20. And along with all of the other reports and everything, as Maggie's working on pay equity, and there's always some things happening within the payroll, accounts payable, and within our district office administrative assistant piece. Within our high school, a couple of highlights. We are having parent-teacher conference right now, and those are happening. And at 6:15 will be a presentation for our incoming 9th graders on all of this course offerings, and it'll be particularly important because of the decisions and action that the board took at the last regular meeting with the changes in the graduation requirements. So we're pretty excited to be sharing that with our parents. And we've been doing presentations with our 8th graders, or the incoming 9th graders, during the school day as well, to introduce them to things. Within our food service, I know this may not sound like a big deal, but it certainly is. They've been able to get strawberry skim milk available at all of our elementaries. We were only for a while able to get it to one. And now it's twice a week in all of them, and the kids love it.
To me, it's fair.
Oh my goodness. I think it's just another example, though, that our food service department is just so responsive to what our students are hoping and wanting. Amy is such a phenomenal leader in that way, and our entire food service staff has just really, truly been service oriented, and they take the input from our kiddos to heart and make it happen, so that's exciting. TCU Lonsdale is going to hit, as I mentioned already, on some of the things that are happening across all of our elementaries, but an additional highlight is that they're investigating the components of called the Compassion Project, and it's within the Lonsdale Leaders framework and on social emotional learning resource. So taking a look at that. And something that TCU La Center is researching as well is the idea of a custom planner and binder system for all students to really help within the organized and preparation. And this is just another step of Avid moving beyond the Avid elective course and moving us to an Avid school-wide. So great things happening, and it's always fun to read through these. I encourage everyone to do so.
Thank you very, very much, Lieutenant Placer. Approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve our agenda for the night.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Ashley,
A second.
second by Krista. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carried. Consent agenda that we have here. Approval of the last month's meeting of January 14th, 2019. Then under personnel, new hires. Linda Karels, Cook's Helper, Montgomery. Mack Tiegs, Assistant Speech Coach. Katie Bukowski, Co-Assistant Speech Coach. Mack Nystrom, Second Grade LTS, Montgomery.
Good evening and welcome. Just keeping in mind, at 6:15, we'll have our incoming ninth graders. That would be this year's current eighth graders. We'll be meeting in the gym. But first, please stop into the Commons, pick up your official course registration sheet from one of the staff members at the high tables by the concession stand, and then you can make your way into the gym. We are not going to start early, so if you want to mill around with it, feel free. Thank you.
Andrea Tuma, Early Child Outreach Specialist, District-wide. Ruth Sticha, Cook Helper, Montgomery. Tom Gaertner, part-time custodian in the high school. Employment ending. Colin Scott, junior high volleyball coach, leave of absence. Lilla, math and computer application, high school. Amanda Sladek, nurse, district-wide. Andrew Busich, English Language Arts, Lee Center. Approval of the bills in the amount of $2,365,370.50. And then the financial report. I will entertain a motion for that consent agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Josh?
Second.
Michelle? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Titan Pride Awards from the TCU Custodial Department. Eric, is that you going to be doing that, or Carl? Together?
Both of us.
Got them right here.
Dr. Chrysler, members of the school board, as you know, those that have worked in education know that on day one there's two people that you're going to meet, right? Your office professional for the building and your site custodian. And Eric and I have really been fortunate and blessed to work with this crew. Just a group of wonderful individuals. We stand up and they're the first men in, first women in, and the first people to leave at the end of the day. And particularly the last couple of weeks, right? Everything is always salted. The parking lots have been safe. Our entries have been secure. Our buildings have been warm and comfortable for those days that we've been able to be here and enjoy the warmth and comfort, of course. And I have to commend a couple of crews here too for a couple of rather big near misses. You know, our TCU Center site hadn't seen temperatures like that for, well, none of us had seen temperatures like that in our lifetime. But that site in particular was running on boiler power, right? Where we had a boiler that was at 120 horse capacity serving that site. And back 10 years ago, we chose to roll that back, and we were running on a secondary boiler at 90% because it's more efficient, more cost effective. And of course, right about the time that we're doing that, our provider of gas says, hey, can you guys curtail a little bit and maybe run your stuff on fuel oil, which we do, because we need to be mindful of the rest of the community and how that affects. Also here at our high school site, during the time when Centerpoint was curtailing and optimizing their systems, gas pressures dropped and we lost both of the boilers, and very brief time. It wasn't until maybe an hour down the road, but our team caught it very quickly and made sure that our sites were safe and warm and comfortable. So we'd like to honor these good people tonight. And specifically from our TCU Lonsdale custodial team, we have Mark and Sherry. Yeah, they're on the long side of the district. They are with us tonight. From TCU Montgomery, our custodial team, Eric, Mary Lou, Jamie, Tyler, and Hans. Can you guys join me up here? That'd be great. In our TCU High School team, we've got Paul, Robin, and Mary. And then at TCU La Center, we've got John, Dude, Lance, Andrew, John, and Michelle. If you guys wouldn't mind joining me in giving these good people a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice job. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your work.
I love your shirt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Kelvin. Continuing on, Brenda, do we have anything for open forum tonight?
I know we did not have any requests during the daytime unless any came in here at the start. I do not believe so.
Okay. So moving on to informational items, the social emotional mindfulness update. Kara and Rachel, if you would like to come up. Looks like Deb's going to join you. Fantastic.
Rhonda, can you bring up the PowerPoint? Nope. Got it. Good evening, Superintendent Preisler and board members. We are very excited to share with you a presentation about something that we are putting together.
I'll get you going here.
All right, thanks, Carl. Something that we've put together that we feel is very, very important to the social emotional growth and well-being of our students. This summer, the three of us, along with the counselor in the high school and Miss Marie, or McKissick now, attended a 3-day workshop on yoga, calm, and mindfulness. And today, we want to share with you some of the results we are seeing and some of the practices that we have in place. Our goal is to just start very small. We are piloting this in a couple of classrooms. We trained all of our staff, K-8, as well as our paraprofessionals this year at the beginning of the school year, and some of the teachers have chosen to take it on as their own project. We're hoping to grow this over the next few years because we feel that it's good for all kids. So with that, I'll let these two introduce themselves and just say a little bit about what they've been. These are the two that actually are going into the classroom, so.
So I'm Rachel Fournier, and I'm one of the school counselors in the Montgomery K-8
Once
building.
again, excuse the interruption, but at this time we are pushing 6:15, which is if you are a current 8th grader, soon to be 9th grader, you and your parents should be in the high school gym for the informational session that will be done by the counselors and administration of TCU High School. 8th graders to the gym, please. Thank you.
I just need to comment. I think it's so valuable for you all to experience this because we're so fortunate to have our district office in a building where students are. And so typically on Fridays or throughout the week, we will get announcements just coming right through our phones and everything. And each time I'm gonna go, yep, we're here for our kids. And that's just a really good reminder. So I know it feels awkward for it to happen, but that's what we're about. So thanks so much, Rachel.
No problem. And do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Kyra Yoder, and I'm the school social worker. I'm at Montgomery and Lonsdale both. Work mostly with the K through 4 and now K through 5 in Lonsdale. We started the whole process initially before the end of the school year, where we went to Jordan. Mrs. Dwyer heard that Jordan Schools was integrating the whole mindfulness yoga into their schools, and so we went over there and followed the school social worker for a while to see what it looked like when she goes into the classrooms. And then we did the 3-day training, which was with 1,000 Petals. That's the name of the organization. And so we went up and did 3 days of intense yoga after school was out. And then that's when we kind of decided how we going to start this. And the person at Jordan really encouraged us, start small. You know, you come back excited and you're like, we're going to do this whole thing. And it's like, no, start small, see how it goes, and then grow it. And that's what we did. We're going into a 3rd grade classroom right now, doing morning meeting, and then go into our mindfulness yoga. Maybe if you want to pick it up from there.
Yeah. And so I guess when we observed it in Jordan, it was just awesome to see how the kids responded to it. Like, they would come in from recess and be like really excited and energized, and then kind of do a few minutes of mindfulness or maybe some yoga-based movements, and then kind of just be more calm and focused and just kind of ready for the next thing. It kind of helped like harness some of that energy. And at the training, we learned about how all the different schools they're doing this in. They do them in juvenile detention centers, all kinds of different settings, just to help with kind of that social emotional regulation and just understanding your mind and your body, and just giving yourself like the tools, taking a few minutes every day to be present and kind of calm yourself down, and kind of have tools so that you can calm yourself down when something happens that kind of elevates your anxiety or stress or whatever it is. So yeah, after that training, we've started it in a 3rd grade classroom, and then we're doing some of the mindfulness in a 2nd grade classroom too, since pretty much the start of the year. So it's been going pretty well so far.
Starting it with kindergarten, helping them learn some of the deep breathing again too, and they think it's super fun.
Yeah.
So we've started that in the last couple weeks of working with them. So
as you can see, mindful movement really offering students strategies that are going to help them develop self-regulation skills, manage their emotions, and build physical and emotional strength are basically what it is through different strategies. What are some of the strategies that students learn? Again, as Kyra and Rachel alluded to, they learn some basic yoga-based movements. They learn a little bit about breathing techniques. They also incorporate social emotional skill development. It's also a very good way of building class or school community. And again, they use the use of storytelling to meet the needs of the physical, emotional, and mental needs of the students. So what is it that we want students to achieve by giving them these tools? Basically, as these two have mentioned, we want to create a learning environment where students have the skills to recognize when they become elevated or when they become in a altered state that maybe they're not focused, and to have those skills so that they can calm themselves, they can do some self-talk and get them back to a place where they can focus on learning and have a stable mindset. So, I've got a few video clips that I'd like to show you. The first one is going to be actually Ms. Fournier in one of the rooms, and this is just an idea of how they build community.
Do thumbs up or down, or anywhere in between, or if there's a feeling, happy, sad, tired, whatever you want. Let's see, who's someone ready to share? Raise your hand. Marissa, how about you go first and then we'll move around the circle. Excited? Really good.
I'm going to fast forward it here so that you can see some other. And there you can see them using the breathing ball. You have one girl who's doing it and then another one who's counting. Here's another example of building community.
I do easy. This may sound kind of corny, but I need to drink a lot more water. How's that going to make my day better? Well, when I don't, oh, no, okay. How do you think that'll help me? Well, I do have a water bottle so that I can not have to run to the drinking fountain as much, right? How do you think that's going to help me if I drink more water? More energy? What else did it do? Hydrated. Yeah. Yep.
It will also keep your body clean all the germs that are.
These are great ideas. Lucas.
So that just kind of shows you the sense of building that community and getting voices. Here's some kids in action. This is when they actually get to doing some of the yoga strategies.
Focus for the day and learn. So we are going to start in mountain. So our 2 feet, like number 11, flat on the ground, facing forward. And we're going to go into upward mountain. So our arms are up. We can kind of stretch forward. And then we're going to stretch over to one side. You don't need to go too far, just however feels good. Stretching your side over here. And then we're going to switch over to the other side. Same thing. And then we'll come back to center. See if you can stretch back a little bit even. That one's kind of hard to do, but if it feels good, stretch back. And then we'll come back to center. And we're going to do a forward fold. So we'll slowly roll down, our heads hanging below our heart, and you can let your arms hang, or you can hold your elbows if you want, and just kind of take a deep breath and let it all go.
Here they're getting into the
That helps.
different poses with focusing on a
And when
point.
you're ready, you can grow your branches. Awesome job, everyone. If you're feeling really good, you can pretend it's a windy day. But that definitely makes it more challenging.
Now, I have a few students that I interviewed to get their perspective on how they feel about doing these.
Hi, Ty. Can you tell me what you like best about the mindfulness and yoga you do in your classroom?
It keeps me calm and it helps me think better.
Thank you. Hi, Ty.
Oh. I'll just skip to another one here.
What do you like about mindfulness?
What I like about mindfulness is that after recess, our mind is all jumbled up, but when we have mindfulness, it helps us calm down.
And how does it help you as a learner?
It helps me as a learner to calm down and get focused so we can move on to our next lesson.
And then finally, I interviewed one of our third grade teachers who has taken this on for a challenge in her own classroom, and this is what she had to say about the process.
I have incorporated mindfulness into my daily schedule this classroom, and I have seen truly amazing effects. We talk often about our breathing and thought process and where our brain needs to be at this moment every day, and the effects have been phenomenal. We are more focused, more on tasks, more in self-control. I've also noticed students using self-guiding meditation and mindfulness through themselves when they're frustrated when it comes to a certain math problem with a length of a reading that could really get them frustrated. So it's really amazing as I look around that students are taking the techniques themselves. I have incorporated mindfulness into my daily schedule.
So just some snippets about what it looks like and why we're doing this. And now if you have any questions.
So I know you had mentioned like recess, but like what time of day do you typically do it? Does it vary or?
When we go in, we usually do it about 8:15 in the third grade classroom. So it's
because
kind
it's part of the morning meeting in that classroom. So we just have tied it into that. In the second grade classroom, it's at 10 o'clock because that's kind of a good break in their day for it. But I know that teacher does do it like when her classroom comes in from recess. And I know a few others have started doing, even just doing like deep breathing and stuff can kind of help bring down that energy level when they come in.
You sort of follow a routine of calm, activity that's a calm, and then activate, and then calm again. So there's certain activities. What's nice is we got tons of resources, and so you can open up and see, which activities are good for calming, which ones are for activating, and string them together in the row that you want them. We have things for like just after recess. There's one that we use if somehow we ended up in the room right after recess and kids are, all excited and stuff. So it was really helpful to get all those tools from the training. So.
Right. And I know some of the teachers use it like before they take a test or like before they did fast testing. They just kind of got their mind into, thinking about what we're going to be doing, taking some deep breaths. Sometimes they put on calming music and they'll just kind of sit there and do some growth mindset thinking, like I'm going to do really well on this test, and just kind of that self-talk to get them a little bit more comfortable before they jump right in to take a test.
When the two of you go in, how long are you able to stay in that class?
She gives us about, most days, 20 minutes, I'd say.
For the morning meeting. In the other classroom where we're really just doing the mindfulness activities, it's more like 5 to 10. It can kind of depend. Like I said, you could just do like some of the deep breaths if that's all you had time for, but we try to do like something calm, then a few yoga-based movements, and then something else calm to round it off.
Is any of this included in like gym class, like the yoga piece or any of that? Just because 20 minutes seems like a large chunk of time. How often or how many times a week does it happen? And how long is your program going to be? Or is this just like you're kind of just giving the tools and then let the teachers have
That's what we're hoping to do, that gradual release of responsibility is train our teachers. Some of them need to see it in action and then release it to them so that they are aware of when their students will most benefit from using some of these strategies. So it can be, like they said, a 5-minute little readjust our mindset, or it can be incorporated right into morning meetings, which almost all of our teachers do for about a 20-minute block every morning or sometime in the day.
We go in every day. When I'm there, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I go in. When I'm not there because I'm in Lonsdale, then Rachel does it. So when we're not there, they'll come and see us in the hallway or something, say, "You didn't come in today. Where were you?" You know, that's
Well,
part
it's
of their
fun,
routine now.
Yeah.
To see us. And this past week with our goofy snow and all that, I was not in there at all this week, and it's like, I kind of missed them. I haven't seen you guys for a whole week.
So if you're not doing those sorts of things, you're doing other pieces to the day though? I mean, like, I'm just wondering how long is this piece of it, or does this go all year long that you're going in?
I'm not sure.
They chose one section, one grade.
Right.
So one
grade,
teacher.
one class.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
for how long?
They're
Like
going to do it the
rest
whole
of
year. For 20 minutes, the beginning of the morning, for the whole year.
Got it. How are you going to measure then the success to see to expand for next year or not? You know, like how are you measuring that?
We're doing some data tracking to hopefully see improvement in the kids. So that's how we're measuring it. We each have our own questions that we're surveying at the end of the year.
Seems like anecdotal maybe is probably how, stories.
We can make observations now, but the data part of it, at the end of the year, we'll see compared to the baseline that we started with.
I'll see it as far as referrals, behavior referrals to the office. So, and I can tell you that it's helped some of our high flyers, really seeing them use their self-regulation skills. And even when they come into my office, I start by just giving them some time to breathe and take some deep breaths and before I go into my whole spiel. So.
Did I answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Anything else?
I think some of the pieces of the transfer, being able to see students initiate it on their own and moving then to when it's needed rather than a scheduled time. But I think actually, you're right, it won't be sustainable if it's only led by counselors and social workers. It will have to be used to kind of experiencing it and seeing it and be important. So thank you.
Well, I would think that once the students learn it and move on to the next grade, they would continue to use it if it worked for them and they felt comfortable with it. And that was part of their routine. So it's helping through all.
That's why we decided to go back to kindergarten and kind of focus with them so that they have that at the very beginning and hopefully they can carry it through.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Superhero Kids presentation.
Yes, members of the board, I think that would be valuable for you to know of this program that was brought to us really by some of our parents here at TCU. And it has become a emphasis for the national Rotaries across, obviously across the nation. But with the increase of the social media, the interactions, and I think we probably all at some point as we were growing up had the stranger danger talks and everything. Well, stranger danger is a little different in 2019 than it was, in 1979 when, I wasn't even 69, I'd been in school, in elementary school. Sorry. But it's a different world that we're in. And so the Superheroes Kids is also connected with the Not Me. That it moves, well, it's not me. I have that wrong.
Me too.
No, it's not me too. It is not me then. Thank you for saying that.
Okay.
The Not Me is for the older students and it is about sexual assault, whereas they get older. And so after having numerous meetings with the parent and connecting with some Minnetonka School District has incorporated this. There's a few others in the area, but really more in the Twin Cities. In doing some presentations with grade levels on how to stay safe when they're away from their trusted adults. The third grade one is going to be a very basic, talking about trusting your instincts, how to tell an adult, and some, they call it the swimsuit areas, the privacy of your swimsuit areas. And the fifth grade then does go into some of those, but it does take it a little bit further into some of the social media aspects, because we do find that fifth graders have phones. And they're into some apps and everything that have proven to be some dangerous areas for youngsters who really don't know where they're navigating. And so We were able to acquire a donation from some regional Rotaries to be able to do this presentation with our 3rd and 5th grade across all of our school district. That will happen on February 27th and 28th. But we also want to make sure that our parents are aware of what's going to be presented. And so next Tuesday night, the February 19th at 6:30, we're going to be doing a parents presentation. And they're going to be sharing what they're going to be presenting to the 3rd and 5th graders. And we had a letter, this letter that you see home with our students today, or emailed out to our parents to let them know. And it is very age appropriate. This is not meant to be scary, but it is meant to help our students to be able to be aware and to be able to navigate the world that is very different than it was long ago. And so we're looking forward to being able to have this. We do not have any plans at this point for where it will go next.
Just a reminder, our grades 9 through 12 parent-teacher conferences are starting to get towards that wrap-up mode. We've set a goal of 6:45. We can go a little bit later for those that are still in line. Please reach out by email or by telephone if you need to learn more. Thank you.
And as I said, it goes through all the grade levels, but they highly recommended that you start at your elementary. It goes by grade bands. They have a K-3, they have a 4, 5, 6, they have a 7, 8, they have a 9, 10, they have 11, 12. The 11, 12 is even geared where they separate the males and females, and it is a session on being prepared to go off after high school and what to be aware of. But as a starting point, and this is where we would start. So just wanted to make you, as a school board, aware of something we were bringing in, so hopefully be able to provide some safety nets for our kids and to help them to become aware too.
Very good. Next item, blended learning day overview. Matt and Terry, I think we're going to handle that one together, I believe.
That's Preston.
I'll say, Eric, can stay here and you take the lead there.
I'm good.
Okay,
yeah, that sounds good to me. All right, so thank you for the opportunity. Obviously, we had more blended learning than we'd hoped for this year, and not necessarily in where we'd expected to be at this point in the year. And so we did get quite a bit of feedback from our parents, from our students, and from our staff to see, how it went, what can we do better, what needs to be clarified, and to move forward. And this is kind of the report from that feedback that we got and some of the things that we're planning to do. As background, Minnesota state statute does state that we can, to minimize the disruption of academic progress caused with emergency school closures, we're making those out of school days as educationally productive and engaging as possible. As a school board, you adopted our e-learning or our blended learning days plan, and we then went to meet and confer. Meet and confer started looking into this, and then we went through a whole process of looking at a bunch of other districts, seeing what they did, what they liked, what they learned, and then implementing our own for this year. On our parent side, we had 298 survey participants. You'll see here in communication that most of our parents were satisfied. They rated either satisfied or very satisfied. I believe we're at about 80% in that, in terms of communication to them on what blended learning days were, as well as blending learning itself on the days that they did happen. Quality of activities, again, our parents are, for the most part, sitting pretty good on being satisfied with the types of activities that happened. Some of these lower ratings came a little bit with things like build a snowman when it's 50 degrees below zero outside is probably not a good idea. And so that was some of the feedback that we got back and something that we couldn't foresee as we built these. We also asked how long it took on our first 2 days in order for students to accomplish blended learning, and you'll see that on the whole we're sitting right around 1 to about 4 hours, somewhere in there, with a couple of our K-12 representing more than 5 hours as something that they experienced. Within the comments themselves, and we left open comments, 75% identified positives or positive comments, positive outcomes out of that. And you'll see the numbers behind them represent how many were coded to that specific type. Most of our parents really like the idea that we're continuing learning on these days, that they're not just days where students are sitting at home waiting for the next day to go to school. They also highly enjoyed not having makeup days at the end of the school year or having vacation or other in-school year days taken up through that makeup time. They also represented a pretty high likelihood there of the student choice. Our parents, especially our K-6 parents, enjoyed the choice boards and that students could choose different activities for the different subject areas that they could go through for that day. Some of the challenges that our parents represented there, first was task clarity. Most of that came out of we weren't quite sure how to accomplish this on this day. Whether the directions were a little bit unclear or they weren't sure if they were doing the work right and the way that the teacher expected for that work to occur. Access to resources in terms of not having the packet available or not being able to find the packet easily online from us. That was a piece of that access to resources, in addition to not having, and you'll see this on some of our other pieces, not having a printer to be able to print out, say, a worksheet or something that either didn't get brought home or couldn't be found at home. Another thing that our parents suggested could be better was the response time when they had a question or when students had a question, getting back to them as soon as possible or as quickly as possible. A couple of things to hold on to as we go through a couple of visualizations of this data is if you look at the difference between our continued learning positives and our task clarity challenges, you'll see a pretty big difference in where our parents are sitting. So keep that in mind as we go through. We put together a couple of word clouds just to visualize a little bit about some of these positives and where we can focus most of our time as we move forward and continue. So here are the positives all put together. You'll see that continued learning is a large font with student choice and no makeup days being another piece. Some of the challenges that our parents connected with, again, our task clarity. If you remember, our task clarity was 29 of them were coded as task clarity there. And then combining our positives and challenges in together. Here, anything that is in that orange is a challenge that our parents represented. Anything that's in the blue is a positive that our parent represented. So loud and clear, it came through that our parents really enjoyed continued learning, no makeup days, and student choice on these days. Some of the things we need to do better at is task clarity, making sure that our parents and students know what and how to accomplish the goals. We sent out a survey to our 512 students. 512 because we do have a one-to-one in school for our 5-6 and our 712 are one-to-one devices as well, and so we got our surveys back from them as well. Our K4 was a little bit more of the how did you feel, how did it go, what was confusing, and we're still looking through some of our responses from our teachers in that as well. So as far as access, we had 661 of our 512 students complete this. In terms of access, the vast majority of our students were capable of that, and we are looking at how can we increase that number as well on those days. Student feedback of how long it took them to complete their assigned work looks fairly similar to what our parent feedback came back as. The notable exception is on Wednesday, January 25th, there was a spike in the more than 5 hours. And there are a couple of different possible responses to that, but again, we're mostly sitting in that anywhere from 1 to 4 hours when it comes to our 512 students accomplishing this learning work. Oh, and I did overlay on top of that. You'll see the shaded area. Those are representations of where our parents assigned in there. So you'll see that's a fairly similar kind of representation. Student feedback comments. Positives, our students overwhelmingly liked to learn from home. Many represented they could focus a little bit better there on the work that they needed to do. Some of them said that they really liked that they had control over their time. They could choose when and where and how of their learning, and that was a great possibility for them. Our students represented that the more that was online and able to be completed online, the better that they liked it in terms of our 512 students. Another popular one was they didn't have to make up days in our 5th and 6th grade because they do have that choice board still being sent home. Really like that idea that they could choose which activities they completed on those days. Some of the challenges was finding the resources themselves and especially organizing their emails because they got an email from every single one of their teachers, and some of them got multiple emails from their teachers and clarification. they had a hard time sometimes figuring out what was from where and who, and how do I organize that so that I can move forward and know that I read that email. Test clarity was another challenge that came forward. I wasn't sure what to do in this. One more thing, and a kind of a credit to our teachers as our students are here, is one thing that most of our students missed was when they have a question for their teacher, they couldn't ask it right away and get an answer right away. So they really like in the classroom when their teachers are there, capable and able of supporting them in learning. From our educator feedback, we focused mainly on the communication. How did we communicate? How prepared were our educators for this? And you'll see again, our educators felt highly prepared. This one down here was too many emails one. I got too many emails on this day or before this day about that information.
What I did with this part, we had 81 responses. Remember, this is just licensed educators. This wasn't our entire staff. And so rather than the percentages and that Matt did, I just have numbers. So 81 of 81 indicated a positive in their comments, and 57 of the 81, the question was, how could this be improved? So that really, by far and away, continued learning. Our educators recognize the value of having continued learning, the communication they felt with their parents and students. They very strongly communication from the district they thought was clear and that they felt well prepared. And student safety was big to them, and they also valued the collaboration with colleagues, professional development. Within areas for improved, streamlining their communication with parents, which we did send something out after the second day when we were starting to get some feedback. How can we streamline this so kids and parents knew who it's coming from? And some said from the district. I know Matt and I did the majority of communicating with our educators, and we would want to streamline where that's going to come. Clarity within our specialist classes, such things as music, art, phy-ed, particular music came up a few times. They'd like more professional development options. I think this one's great, that our special services wants to know more about what was being sent by our general ed so they could support our students more. Oh, that's excellent. They also acknowledge that they feel they're going to need to provide more variety within their own lessons and activities, and how to improve participation. So I don't have the percentages like Matt did, and I didn't do word clouds. We just closed these this weekend, so.
We did. Couple of pictures. We do have a kind of a slideshow of learning that happened that is posted to our Facebook page and is on our website as well. So some pictures of our students learning on this day, some inside, some outside, some of their work and some of their connections, and then some of the blended learning that was happening online through Moodle.
These were ones that really, I found that I can't go anywhere without talking about the weather. Hopefully that changes someday, but for right now, that's the way it is. And having gone to grocery stores, getting gas, you name it, I've had numerous unsolicited comments from parents, students, and our staff about how positive they felt that the blended learning was. I believe their words were, "Thank goodness we have blended learning." Came over and over again. And who would have thought this year would occur? Also in talking with some educators from districts who are connected to TCU, and some of these were directly to me and some were in a second hand that I've had other educators share. As they saw what we were doing, they would really like to see this happening in their district. And they indicated the value of continued connection with their students during these weather-related closures. This came from multiple people, but I'll just share on a personal level. My son's a high school teacher in a district that doesn't have this. He teaches an AP social studies course. They are on a timeline for when the AP test is. He said, we don't have blended learning, but I'm doing blended learning because I have to stay connected with my kids. So just something that's been interesting to see and hear. Then what if we continue to have weather-related school closures? Well, Minnesota statute does require 165 days, and then it has the hours. So with us having blended learning, we are still at 174. Now the statute allows 5 days of e-learning to count toward required student days, but you don't have to stop at 5 days. We can only count 5 of them towards our attendance, but you can keep doing them because there are districts doing blended learning or e-learning who are not counting them towards their attendance because they didn't do some of the things that the statute indicates. We are following the statute to its fullest guidance. And so it does not mean that once we hit 5, if we hit 5, that we can't do them anymore. We can keep on. And when you see that we would still have that number of days and we're surpassing the number of hours, even if we can't count them for attendance, we will still be, okay, it would have to be phenomenal, which I shouldn't say that because who knows?
We can say it.
I know. Now, I've heard, people have taken what Governor Walz's comment was about the not penalizing districts. That was Governor Walz speaking. That is not action. He is not able to make that action. So it would have to go to the legislature. But I think from what we saw in the feedback, that this is really about learning and not necessarily about following a statute. The statute allows us to do this, but the things we're seeing really are about all the other benefits that have come. And so I'm going to go to the next slide. It was one of the pieces that it did in the statute. It did say the board can do this, but in collaboration with your EA, which is our education association. And so I did our meet and confer. Doesn't have a meeting already yet, but will soon. But I did connect with our EA president, and she and I are both at the feeling that even if we hit 5 days, we should continue on. It would be confusing for people to not. If we were to stop, then we do have to start looking at adding days, and we absolutely can't add days at the end of the year with our construction. We have too many things that have to get started even earlier than we'd hoped. And that it does allow that connection with students and learning, which have been in some really bizarre situations. We should use the feedback we've gained to tweak and refine, which we already did after the first days, but we'll continue on. And we did receive, as you recall, that T-Mobile Empower Ed grant. Ironically, the hot spots have arrived here now during this bad weather, so we haven't been able to distribute them, and that would be our next step to get those out to the students and families who've indicated a need. And that may help some of that connections piece.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions for Matt or for myself?
I think it went really smoothly, and I have a high schooler and a elementary student. My elementary student was kind of bummed he couldn't do the build a snowman, but he has kinetic sand, so he built one out of that. My daughter said it was more work than she thought it was going to be as a high schooler, but she didn't complain at all. I mean, she was very happy with what she had to do, and I think she had a couple of questions that she emailed, but I thought it was really easy as a parent. I'm just happy we did it this year so that we don't, I don't know what we would do.
We've used 4, correct? No?
Yes.
Yep.
I think just from personal, but also hearing from friends that have kids, is that for people that have the time or maybe have the support of both parents in the home, right after school, it did work pretty smooth. I think I did hear some things that were, it is hard for some that maybe don't have enough support at home to begin with, and then if they have multiple children and they're trying to figure it out. However, if you look at the alternative, what is that? I think it's the best case scenario, and I think the things you've mentioned are some of the things I've heard, and so I'm confident that you guys will just continue to kind of tweak and mold, and this is our first time doing it, so we have to expect there to be some little bumps along the way, but the idea is great, and I think it's just keep going with it.
Any other questions or comments?
Gosh. Hey, thank you very, very much, Matt.
Thank you.
Appreciate
I
it.
have to commend Matt and really all of our educators. So, talk about the most difficult possibility to come into something brand new, and they've held patience. They've been flexible. They've gone they've just done an outstanding job, and, you know, I use that hashtag, these moments, but these days have certainly shown that, and the dedication our staff has to our kiddos, and that's how it should be, so.
A lot of work for them too, because they're planning
Yes.
additional things on top of what, so.
Most impressive how organized they are, the educators, as far as getting stuff sent home and everything, so that was impressive too.
Yeah, and pre-work, like anticipation, we'd get things like, there might be a day for this prediction, you know, it was like,
Keep this in your
here's
folder,
the paper
done.
packet, yeah, it was like, thank you. So,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you.
Next item, mid-goal actions, TCU Montgomery K-8, and then the district office and community education. So Deb's going to come up first.
You could all come together if you
Good,
want
yeah.
to, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever you like.
Come on, sit by me.
Wait, so you might not want it to sit by you.
Yeah, I'm feeling well.
Maybe we could just have Wayne go.
Appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Dr. Preisler, board members, it's me again. I'm just going to very briefly share with you a couple of the action steps that we are taking at the Montgomery K-8 building. Our focus, academic focus, is to increase our math scores. And so one thing that we decided we needed to do was to provide some consistency and continuity with vocabulary. So as a team, we looked at some of the common vocabulary of the third grade MCA tests, and there's a whole list of words. And we felt it isn't really fair for the third grade teachers to teach every single one of those terms, because there were some terms that kindergarten teachers could teach. So we went through, and the kindergarten teachers picked out the terms that they felt they could teach in kindergarten. First grade and second grade did the same thing, so that there's an equal share of the words. And so then what we did is we created a word wall where all of the grade levels would get the definition of the term. And this, we are seeing a spiraling effect. So the kindergarten term is introduced in kindergarten. It's then, again, reinforced in first grade, in second grade, and third grade. So we see this continual consistency of the same meaning. And so here's just an example of some of the other higher level grades, equivalent, y-coordinate, those kinds of things. So that is really neat. Walking into the classrooms, K-8, you're going to see the math vocabulary terms on the walls and referencing it, both students as they speak as well as teachers in their presentations. The other item we decided we needed to gain some consistency on was our academic vocabulary. These are the terms that we have found by taking a look at some of the test specs and some of the item samplers about those higher level thinking words that students need to be able to know. For instance, compare. Compare is taught in kindergarten. So this is a term that the kindergarten teachers can teach their students, and it carries with them all the way up to 8th grade. So that when we are talking about comparing a character or characters in a story, the students have an idea of what that means. Just as if in a science class in 7th grade life science, students are asked to compare the life cycle of a butterfly to a frog, they have the same consistent vocabulary. And then as the terms get more difficult, each grade level selected a couple terms that went with they felt that they could teach their children, and then they just go up. So for example, prove. What does it mean to prove something? And then one of the highest levels is to justify. What does that mean? And this isn't actually implemented until 7th grade. So we felt that those are going to provide us with some consistency, spiraling, carrying us all the way through from kindergarten to 8th grade. So that was one of our goals. The other goal was has to do both with our academic and social emotional goals, and that is the peer mentoring program that we've started. We have asked some of our 7th and 8th grade students if they wanted to take a day or two from their study halls and come down to an elementary classroom and help out in the classroom. And we had an overwhelmingly surprising number of students who wanted to give up that 1 or 2 days a week to go down into a classroom. With the schedules the way it happens to be, it's mainly our primary grades that are receiving the help at this point. We're hoping that as this program grows in the future years, that we'll be able to allot for some of the other classrooms to get some of this help. Just in talking to some of the students, I asked them what they liked about going into the classrooms. One response was from a 7th grade student, I enjoy helping the kindergarten classroom because I remember when I was little and the older kids would come and read with my class. I really enjoyed that and I looked up to them. I am happy that I get to be that person for the kindergartners now. Another 8th grade student, a male, said, I really liked when I get to go and help the students in what they are learning. I really like when I get to play educational games with them. Another 8th grade girl, the first thing she likes is I loved when they smile, when they saw us coming and helping them with their assignments. And the second thing is I loved helping them with their reading and doing art projects. That's the student's perspective. I also went to my teachers and asked them, what is it that you like about having the peer helpers come? One teacher said, our class loves having our 7th grade buddies come to our room. They help us with reinforcing our reading and math skills through working individually or within small groups. We play card games or board games. These middle school leaders also help us with learning to take turns, being patient, and how to be a good sport. Our kindergartners look up to them and can't wait for the days when it's their chance to be a buddy. And then one other teacher just mentioned that she is always glad to have an extra set of hands when they are doing their project-based learning activities or Project Lead the Way activities. One of the helpers works on sight words, and another one works on math games, and also when they're using the iPads, it's nice to have just that other set of help in the room. So we're really hoping that this isn't just a fun time for our kids, but really it's helping not only help those strugglers with academics, but it's also building a stronger culture and a stronger sense of community with our buildings and giving some of our students leadership skills, which is something that they need in life. So we're really excited about this and hope that as we go future years, we can expand it. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Deb.
Well, Superintendent Chrysler, members of the board, I'm Jean Kopp, Director of Business Services, and I'm representing the District Business Office. Our 18-19 goals and action plans continue our core vision, which is to enable great things to happen at TCU by supporting our staff to do their job at the highest levels, delivering exemplary customer service to our families, and partnering with communities to build for the future. So a few key ways we're doing that, we are working to accomplish these things this year are by utilizing additional features in our financial software to improve payroll and benefit expenditure estimates. So that's very exciting, I'm sure, but those things account for 80% of our general fund $1. So that's a really big piece of it. So this is an enhancement of our forecasting methods, and we did this for the first time this fall. Maggie, Grim, and I, with the help of our Region 5 support team and partners, and this data will be used to incorporate into our budget revision planning. So another is partnering with JMC, our parent portals, to support online enrollment, expanding online registration, and transitioning student forms to JMC at all sites. So this is a continued effort, but through this effort we hope to make a smooth process for our families to complete annual documentation for students and to reduce the workload and paper sorting for office staff during the especially busy return to school times. And then, as with all the sites and departments, the district business office is impacted by the construction projects, of course, and we work daily to support and complete the necessary tasks of these projects. So as you'd expect, the scope of the project requires additional coordination of schedules and tracking and reconciliation of expenditures. And another major project is the planning and purchase of the furniture, fixtures, and equipment to make our new spaces functional and great learning and working environments. And this has been a partnership with teams at each site. So there's a table behind you where you can see some of the selections that we've made and some of the layouts that the design team's been working on. So you can check that out later. And as always, the district business office team is committed to completing our tasks with financial integrity and within the framework of our policies. So we're kind of we hold that very near and dear. And I think I mentioned to you all before that we really work hard to do the right thing every day. And that just will keep everybody, the whole district, in a good place. So that's it. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Jean, very, very much. Do you need anything, because you've been ill, that we could...
It's a good nap.
Well, thank you for being here tonight.
Yep, you bet.
Just stay on that side.
Stay over here?
Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Poor thing.
So for community ed, so going into this position, the previous director didn't have any goals at the time, so I had the opportunity to make ours up. But some of our vision is the bridging opportunity experiences and a sense of community through program services, sports, and activities with combined strengths of the Center, Lonsdale, and Montgomery. And some of the things that we're really pushing is Department of Goals expanding program by providing additional services to the communities within TCU School District. I'll be focusing on the first two. The first one, develop and implement a 5-day preschool program for 4-year-olds and up in the 2019-2020 school year who qualify for kindergarten the following school year. That is a goal that will be set forth by myself and our early learning coordinator, Natalie Eckstein, who is also present. At this current time, we are working on a plan to implement a 5-day preschool program based on Little Titans survey results for additional programming. Again, this is some of the information that each of you received, and we discussed at the work session on Monday, January 24th. And how we are proceeding with that, by using that information, we have in our plans right now to implement that 5.5-day preschool programming in each of the 3 communities. A large part of this additional program opportunity has to do with the referendum and some of the classroom expansions that we're able to do. More things, particularly in Lonsdale and Montgomery. Currently at the primary building, we have some ample space to do that. So right now, the plan is after the school board meeting tonight, sometime tomorrow, we are going to be sending out a mailer to all of our 4-year-olds who would qualify for the 5.5-day preschool tomorrow morning, and we are going to mail that out and start the registration process. So we are jumping on that right away. So we're pretty excited. This is something that's brand new for our school district, and we're just basically addressing those needs that parents are telling us that they want. Okay? Any questions about that one before I move to the next one? Okay. Next one is develop a facility usage plan to increase usage at the TCU La Center primary building. Communications staff met to start to generate ideas on how to increase activities and attendance to better utilize the TCU La Center primary building. Myself, early learning coordinator Natalie Eckstein, and Jessie Siepson, she is our Kids Zone / youth enrichment coordinator. We met here back in January to start generating some ideas on how we can enhance the programming at the TCU primary building. So we started coming up with some ways to look at how we can kind of spread and share additional programs across the communities and come up with additional programs that would we could really enhance our primary building. One is we are going to be doing a safety camp this summer. We're actually doing a safety camp in all 3 communities. This is where we're going to be bringing in professionals from the Sheriff's Office, Police Department, Fire Department, Electrical Safety, Water Safety, and hoping to bring a helicopter in. This is something we did in the sewer before I came here, and it's an exciting opportunity. The other thing too, just by talking to some of the members of the center, they would like to see more programming in their own community, which I appreciate and can respect their wishes on that. The only thing that will be kind of we'll have to discuss a little bit, and we've talked about a little bit with some correspondence with Jean and I think Carl too, is that from my understanding it gets a little bit warm in the primary building in the summertime.
So we'll have to kind of talk about some of that. But outside of that, we are looking at partnering with the local library to offer some different programs and things like that. So we're hoping to bring in the Star Lab here this summer. It's like a 31 by 31 foot like inflatable dome. Kids can kind of go in there and check it out. We are partnering with Lonsdale already. Montgomery Library is already bringing it in, so we're trying to work out some details this week for the center.
Nice.
It'd be pretty awesome if we can do it. Okay? Any questions?
You're cascading across all.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, we did the same thing in Henderson, Lucille Henderson. We tried to, as much as possible, but we had available.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Building project update.
Yes, Carl and I put together some information for you, as much as possible visuals, and a couple of videos really are, we'll just do bits rather than the entire thing for sake of brevity, but I know that it's always, pictures are worth 1,000 words, and a video is even a whole song or something like that, I don't know, so it's exciting stuff.
Well, Dr. Preisler and members of the school board, Carl Mack, Director of IT and Facilities for TCU, and really happy to be at this point. As you're all aware, you signed the contract on the last project for those center projects back a few weeks ago, and we've had all of the pre-construction conferences, in addition to what ATS&R has adopted as their policy and process for vetting those contractors that were awarded prior to signing the contract. So there's 2 steps in that process that have gone on in the planning meetings. But this is the fun stuff. I try to get to each of the locations and construction projects. So we have 4 bond elements, but really 6 phases of construction when you break that down. The auditorium and the classroom additions are really 2 separate phases. And at La Center, the office renovation and the HVAC retrofits will be 2 separate phases. And then you have the Montgomery EC K-8 Center and then the Lonsdale site as well, the classroom additions. Pretty remarkable things that are going on. This, currently at Lonsdale, they're at about 60% of having the floor in. And this weather, in addition to being disruptive to instruction, has been disruptive to construction as well. And what we're finding, we've got about 2/3 of the roof on the Lonsdale site done, and they've gotten it battened down, sealed for moisture so we don't have intrusion from the snow that's been accumulating, and they're keeping the snow off that roof very well. As a result of that, we've been able to get 60% of this area poured. And this first video is really great because you get to see what we call a mud buggy, right? And this is a neat process. They've got the truck out outside of the wall, and they take these mud buggies, Toro devices, and they take it up to the truck, fill it in, and these guys are just going like Mad Hatters until the floor is totally poured. So a couple of things happening here. They're adding the concrete, and the gentlemen are getting it flat and somewhat level. And the site superintendent is actually taking a hook and pulling that wire mesh up into the concrete as it's being poured. So that provides the superstructure and structure for the flooring. The concrete prep, as we look at this area here, again, it gives you an idea of that grid. That blue area is a vapor barrier. It goes over the very good fill that they brought in for this project. And what we have here is an example of elements of some of the meetings that Terry and I attend each week. Each of the superintendents gives us what they call a 2-week look ahead. As you can imagine, in the last couple of weeks, some of this stuff has been in flux. But what was really nice when I visited the Lonsdale site specifically this morning was to see that everything was still going as they had intended. The roofers are to be on site here, weather pending here midweek, to hopefully close up that north end and then allow us to get the concrete poured on the north end. They don't want to do that because some of the moisture that accumulates from condensation from warming the building actually drips off the decking, and they don't want to destroy the integrity of the top of that concrete until we know that the roof is sound. TCU High School, this was really kind of a joyous occasion when Big Bertha finally put in that final panel. You'll see the cables right there. That was the last panel that's going to go in what we call the fly area of the auditorium. That's where all of the rigging goes, the sights and sceneries that gets pulled up and out of the way, where your lighting is. And this is the installation of the last panel in that area. You'll get an idea of how immense these things are.
How tall are they again, Carl?
Those are 48 feet tall and 18 inches thick. They're big. So what they're going to do is they're going to set that in place, and there's metal footings. You can see the rectangular tabs at the bottom that are tacked in place by a welder. They set a panel, a welder comes in with a mobile rig. Then at the top of the panel, you saw where that cage was at the first part of the shot. There's a portable welder up there where they tack the metallic components and they actually set that structure in place. It's absolutely incredible. These right here are called the dead man poles. As soon as the panel's in there, they actually weld the plate to those bars which go deep in the earth and keep those things from falling over or becoming vulnerable to wind. Ironic name, since it's really prevented to avoid that, but and then what you're seeing here is the classroom edition. This wall right here would be the new biology lab on the north wall, which would be facing into the area of the courtyard. And then this would be the south end of the classrooms in that same area. The area that's open here is all CMU, that's called concrete masonry units. It's going to be all hand-placed brick and block work, which is adjacent then to the areas that you see that are precast, which is the ag shop. Down here, you see the arrival of the joist and steel that is going to be erected over the next 5-6 days over the roof area of the auditorium. And then this is Steve Zobek from the high school project. He's our superintendent on that site. For each of our meetings, he writes up a 3-week look ahead, and we snap a picture of this. So just to take an example, in Area A, that would be the A for auditorium, you can see he's got the welding done. They're going to do some precast caulking. Each one of those, if you look at the seams of this precast, is filled with styrofoam rod, and then the exterior is filled with a heavy-duty caulk. And that's what actually creates the seal for the moisture and vapor barrier on the outside of those panels and also on the inside of the panels. And then you'll see they've got the AG, that's above ground CMU. So, we had the CMU, the concrete masonry unit underground, that was backfilled. That provides a foundation. Now that's where you're seeing the walls actually coming out of the dirt. And this would be the look ahead for the next week. They're going to continue the caulking, interior and exterior caulking around the precast, and then the same in these areas as they continue to do that brickwork. Terry, if you want to step through some of these, that would be great.
As Carl said, we had our pre-construction meetings for all of our sites here now already, and just want to give you a kind of the long-range pre-construction plan look ahead. And the TCU Montgomery, when President's Day on Monday, when there's no school, are going to take advantage of that, and plumbers are going to be coming through with some walkthroughs and areas to be hitting. The April 1 is when that external secured entry office construction begins, which then means that we need a staging area. And so there'll be about 12 parking spots in that northeast corner that we will not be able to use, and that will be where the contractor is going to have some of their equipment. Then in the summer, the entire parking lot on the east side of that building will be the staging area. And so we've already communicated with our Mr. Johnson with activities, because we do a lot of things in the gym and they are not going to be able to use that area for parking. And the renovation area cleared and ready to get going on May 23rd. We've moved that up from May 28th. And just this morning, we had an internal meeting for TCU Montgomery on some ideas that we can do to move that, get that boxed up and packing up quickly, and determined that Baby Animal Day is going to go across the street to the bus garage. So that's a big deal, everybody.
That's a huge deal.
TCU La Center, we had the pre-construction meeting last week. They're really itching to get in there. We are going to start mid-May with the HVAC work in the band choir area and the area below that, because we'll have had our concert, and we'll be able to do rehearsals or continued lessons in the auditorium, which if you recall, we had to do at the end of the year last year for band. Spring break is going to be a lot of walkthroughs with our contractors, which is in April. The classroom areas and areas with HVAC in the main office will need to be cleared. Basically, Dean, the contractor, said if it's important to you, get it out of there. And so that's going to be a big step. Our summer staging area is going to be the east side of the parking lot, like it was for the roof. May 23rd, again, is our target date for construction work to begin, and we are going to be able to continue summer school and summer meals in the A wing, or the west side of the building, as we will in Montgomery, but since this renovation is lower level, we aren't even going to be close to where those take place.
Yeah. And, one thing in summary here too, for this, we would definitely invite you to contact us if you're at all interested in getting a site visit. Now that we have walls up and decking on and things enclosed, and the heavier trades are going to be leaving the sites, it's a great time for you guys to get your eyes on things. If you just email us, and if you're at all curious to want to kick around or get a tour of the site, Steve and Brad and myself can certainly get you in there until the other projects are on the way. But we'd encourage you to have a first-hand visit sometime. And it's just a matter of logistics.
We'll set something up as well, especially now that lawns. Once we get enclosed, we can do those things a little safer.
And warmer.
I'm just going to hit real quick on some of the ideas in the FF&E. I'm so glad that Jean could bring some of the finishes and the colorings. This will kind of give you some ideas as to what we're looking at in furniture. In the TCU Montgomery Early Learning, you can see some of the various types of furniture pieces that come in. Remember, we're having 4 classroom areas there and the Smart Room activity area in the main. TCU High School, as we shared from the very beginning, this is going to look very different than any other part of any of our buildings. Every one of those walls are removable. It can be opened up all the way. So what we have is a lot of flexibility of furniture in there. It's just because we are seeing a piece in one room doesn't mean it stays there. It's going to be a great collaboration aspect. We could go on. TCU La Center office, again, it's going to be a very efficient area. It's going to have a great welcoming environment, and the coloring there is just going to be outstanding, as with all of our sites. And at TCU Lonsdale, the Commons area is really showing some of this kind of furniture. Remember that there's some room moved, so we are going to be able to reuse some of the furniture at TCU Lonsdale, and moving it into like kindergarten rooms now, moving into the kindergarten rooms of the future. I mean, there's still a lot of good furniture there, but we do have some things that are needing to be replaced. So that's kind of where we're at with FF&E, and we're moving along. It's pretty exciting.
Very good. Any questions or thoughts? Super. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is MSBA Leadership Conference Session Overview. They asked that we would spend some time. Kevin came up with this idea. We thought it would be a great idea, just to talk about the outbreak sessions that you went to and give 2 or 3 bullet points. So, Kevin, because you were the person.
So I get thrown on the bus first.
How's that?
So I guess the first one I attended was with Terry. We both went to, it's called Ripple Training. It's the School for Safety, National School Safety Council. And they, basically what that one was it's assessing threats, but also more of, it's rational, impactful, preventative leadership. So it's more of a power of one, of identifying the possible threats within your school and mentoring and being there and giving them positive role models. Ones that maybe don't have that, to have somebody they can trust and go to when they have issues, and have an open door. So that's that in a nutshell. They do a lot of things, a lot of the same things we do now here, but they also have like a care closet for food and clothes and stuff like that for families, stuff like that. And that's done in Bertha Hewitt, which is a small school district, but they're doing a lot of cool things. The other one I went to was, I thought was cool, was a school fishing league. And it just happened to be Ruth Hewitt, again, the same guy, the superintendent there. And again, this is something that they brought up because they had activities like sports and stuff like that, but not all kids were interested in that type of activity. So they figured if they give them some skills for lifestyle stuff, such as fishing, and made it into a league and a contest, and they're all interested in fishing to see how it worked. What ended up, they thought it was going to be very small. They had about 4 or 5 superintendents get together, and they started talking about fishing, and they came up with this idea, and they kind of put the word out, and they had 14 schools reply, over 300 students show interest and sign up, and well over 100 volunteers. So everything is volunteer. All the uniforms, poles, everything are donated. And it was really cool, the positive impact they have and the rules they made up. So that information's here if anybody wants to see it. That's it in a nutshell.
Thanks, Kevin. Shelley, you want to go next?
Absolutely. So I went to #MeToo, addressing and responding to claims of sexual harassment. It was put on by Radwick. I think this is who we use, isn't it? Yes. Yes, one of our attorneys. Really interesting. He kind of went through what the different factors are, severity, type, frequency. There's a lot that plays into this, a lot more than what you might initially think. And just sort of explained it in more detail on what sexual harassment is, what it isn't, and kind of how to know where that line is, although there's a lot of fuzzy lines in some places. But I do have all the information and lots of notes to get a little bit deeper. Maybe not the most appropriate place to do it now. And then the other one is facility and programming safety management during out-of-school time. So this one I thought was really interesting. They put together this, they were concerned with all of the community ed events and adult learning education, different things that are happening in our buildings after school. And who's monitoring that? And who do you call for an emergency? And there was a lot of things that I guess I had never thought about with using the buildings after school. They put together they developed a job description for a site, basically a site leader, college-age students who are working, they're paid positions at each of their buildings in the evenings. So, if I was going to an ECFE class with my little and it was late in the evening and something happened, everybody in the building knows that who that site leader is and what their jobs are. It's everything from kind of monitoring who's going in and out to even a little bit of the custodial stuff at the end, so it doesn't leave quite so much for the custodian staff. Huge collaboration between the school, community ed, rec center type people, kind of just making sure everybody knows what's happening at the school. And then, we have our safety, emergency evacuation, that kind of things all set up for during the school day. But they noticed they couldn't have the same type of plans in place for after school. All of our teachers aren't here. There's so many things that are different that they worked with their local law enforcement and so on and so forth so that they're all under the same understanding of what that plan looks like. So it was really good. I enjoyed both of them. And I have more information. I have lots of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I went to 2 sit-ins, and I'm going to speak on one and then the main speaker because I really found him inspirational. And I think everyone can use a little tidbit of what I'll share. But the first one I went to was for schools or other public settings and therapy animals. And I know that's really come up a lot in not just schools, but really everywhere, airplanes, wherever. So I found it interesting that there is a federal law that supports therapy animals as dogs and mini ponies, like miniature ponies, but nothing else, not cats, not peacocks, nothing. So federally, we have to allow miniature ponies and dogs. But there are lots of little caveats that go into that, and there was a lawyer that was speaking on this. So she had, basically she said, anytime you have somebody wanting a therapy animal, you need to speak with your legal counsel to make sure that we're following the right law. But those were the two animals. Otherwise, any other animal is not considered federally a therapy animal. So the takeaway is, if we ever have anybody, we just need to speak with their legal counsel about how to handle that correctly. People kept saying, well, what about this or what about that? And she was like, it depends on X, Y, or Z, and whatever. So I thought that I'm a believer in them. I just think, there's a lot of different pieces to it. So the main speaker at the conference was David Horsager, and he wrote the Trust Edge book. And we did some work on this, I think it was last year, in one of our work sessions, just as a team. But he spoke about in depth for the 2 days we were there, the pillars of trust. And so I pulled those out because I think we can apply them anywhere, whether it's school board, teaching, our professional life, whatever. But basically you need these 8 things in order to be a trusted leader. So it's clarity, people trust the clear and mistrust ambiguous. 2, to be compassionate, people put faith in those who care beyond themselves. 3, to have good character, people notice those who do what is right over what is easy. Being competent, people have confidence in those who stay fresh, relevant, and capable. 5, being committed, people believe in those who stand through adversity. 6, being connected, people want to follow, buy from, and be around friends. 7, contribution, people immediately respond to results. And 8, consistency, people love to see the little things done consistently. So a lot of those he spoke in depth on and resonated with me, but I think it's a really interesting book and something that I always will look back to from our conference.
Thank you. All 3 of you very, very much. The next item is we were asked to bring some listening session ideas. We try to have listening sessions in 3 of our communities, or each of our communities, all 3 of them. And unfortunately, they have not been all that well attended, so it's our task to come up with some ideas, and then we can move that forward in getting better attendance. So I had a couple of ideas, the idea too of a send out, something very, very similar to this that we would ask that would get out to all of our parents and guardians, just reminding them of our listening sessions. The other one that I was wondering about is with our community catalog, kind of like an advertisement part page that would show the 3 dates that we would be having those listening sessions and where they would be at. People who use those community ed catalogs would see them, would open them up. Oh, that's right, that's coming up. Was a couple of ideas that I gave.
Do we need to have them, and if so, all 3 of them? Or was this, I know we had talked about this, kind of came about with the referendum and just consolidation and getting messaging out. Is the intention still the same of what we originally set out to do?
So I was thinking maybe, I think most of our schools have, for example, I was thinking in Lonsdale, we have the carnival. There's a ton of people that come to that carnival. What if we had a room set up where we were sitting? Parents could come in and just chat. Does it need to be quite so formal? Because something like that. Montgomery has, I think, a couple of different types of evening carnival type things that maybe instead of asking people to come to us, when it's convenient for us, because we scheduled it, if we go to them where they are and they kind of want to be there. We've got Healthy for Youth Day. We've got, that's here.
There's a safety day somewhere, and it sounds like Lee Center is
And
shooting for that.
yeah, so I wonder if, my thought was go to them. Go to the things that we know our parents are coming to.
Not only our parents, but our general public, even those that don't have children in school.
Yes.
Sees all the concerns. And I was thinking like tonight conferences type.
Right.
We're only going to reach those who are parents that have children in school, but come out with the way we can reach the others as well.
My idea was just to give examples of what people can kind of speak about, because I remember before I was even on this board, I came to a listening session and I was like, what do you want to know? What is it you want to listen to? So if there was a way to, even if piggyback off some of the other ideas, informational stuff out to parents or to the community in general, like topics that they could speak to, or questions, like frequently asked questions that we get that they could ask, or just ideas in general. So it's more guided than we're just here to listen to you, because that can be kind of overwhelming and you don't really know what to say.
Again, I think when it first started, like we were just running for board, and it was a lot of talking about potentials, like what were some needs of the community, or what was the ideas, or learning more about the district. And that is what the point is. But at the same time, it's people aren't making the attempt to come to ask about it, and maybe they're asking individually more, going right to people. I don't know. I think we still get some of that, but it isn't really generating the crowd we need. I like the idea of going to where people are, but then to Kevin's point, that reaches only often parents.
Well, and maybe
that's okay too. I mean,
yeah, maybe kind of bouncing off my own idea here is we make more of a point of being more available at Lonsdale Community Days, Montgomery Kolachki Days. I know we have booths set up at 2 of them. So maybe focus more on the events where we have, where our people are, our public, our parents are.
I think it's important that we make it clear that number one is we don't want to have a scripted, so to have something to talk about. I definitely want to listen to concerns people have. But if they come up to us individually as board members, we can listen and we can relay it back, but we can't make promises to them, and then we got to make the answer. They might not get an answer.
Right.
We can't individually answer.
Right.
Or give them a promise.
No, we couldn't even at a listening session really either. I mean, you could provide, or we could help provide the facts, but oftentimes if there's an ask, we can't until a meeting anyway.
I think
It's a conversation going.
Yeah, it does. You're right.
I think the question that Ashley is raising, do we want to continue the listening sessions?
In the same way that they are right now.
In the same way that they are. I think that has to be almost our first decision, and then move on with whatever the board wants. So feelings about that type of situation.
Well, I think we had people that were requesting we do these kind of things, so I wouldn't want them to completely go away, because the part of why we did it, I think, was to show that we're being transparent, and we don't have a lot of audience here sitting that can talk to us during either our regular meetings or our work session meetings. That I thought initially the thought was more about being transparent and being available. So maybe changing it makes sense, but I personally would not want to see them go away.
And that was because I don't think we were involved in that. But so originally it was the transparency piece and to just be available. So we want to hold true to that, but maybe it's not piggybacking off of Monday night meetings. Maybe it's doing something else or holding them, figuring out where we can get to the people that want it.
I liked what Dale suggested too, of getting, I think I include myself in this, sometimes we're not proactively looking for when is the next listening session. So if you can somehow get the word out to people that it crosses their eyeballs, so to speak, at an opportune time, that'll jog their memory, it'd be helpful. You know, I like the idea of an advertisement in the community ed catalog, for example, as a start. That reaches a wide range of people. You know, I guess I don't know what the attendance has been at the past one, so if it's lightly attended, do we need to have them as often? I don't know.
I mean, we'd have to plan, obviously, well ahead of time, but can we put it in the school calendar? I know that a lot of grandparents and stuff get the calendars, you know, for the information that's on them, the sports and stuff like that. Can it be put in? We'd have to plan, obviously, before the calendar's published, but.
So our school calendar would come out to this fall, we'd be able to have our fall one, but we don't have the board meeting set until the January organizational meeting. So that, but you're right, the school calendar is a important one, but we're gonna, we wouldn't have taken action as to when the board meetings are if we want to connect it to that. But
If we did like a fall and a spring, we connected it to activities that were going on there, because if those activities would already be on the school calendar, you could just say followed by listening session. You know what I mean? If we did an activity in the, it's already in
not
there.
tied to a board meeting, but tied
Yeah,
to an
to an
activity.
activity that's within the community.
There you would be.
I really do like going out into it, because because we usually would have a meeting and then it's later, and so then it's like parents or people, it's later.
Mhm.
And maybe it's convenient for us because we're here, but it probably
Right.
isn't for the majority of other folks.
Mhm.
Whereas if it was earlier with an event, and just to socialize with the people.
Mhm. But we still need it in all three communities. We
True.
couldn't
So we
just
could
do
do
two.
fall and spring. Yeah,
We
you're
couldn't
right.
just do two.
You're right.
Terry has written down some ideas. How about if Terry and I get together and come up with, some ideas that we could actually present at the February, work session as far as ideas, and just get a quick reaction to that. And that way we, I think we got a very nice list of ideas. Marcia, thank you for coming very much. Very, very busy lady. We're just on that point of talking about listening sessions and having ideas. Anything else that you would like to add as far as?
No, not right now, but thank you.
Okay.
I'm sure we could email if people do come up with more.
Yeah,
just
oh
email.
yes, yeah, please do. Either Superintendent Chrysler or myself.
And since we put them on our board-approved meeting nights, if we do make some change, we probably need to reapprove our board meetings document at the March regular meeting. Okay.
Thank you all very, very much. Next item is enrollment updates.
I know you're here somewhere. There we go. Our enrollment continues to be really very steady. I know we sometimes have slight leaks and everything, but again, when I always go back and see the patterning over the years, as we look at our bottom line, we've got a little bit of a dip, and yet at this number, we still are ahead of where we have been in previous years. And holding true within just a few students really, we're, since 2014-15, we have trended 100 plus kids from where we were in 13-14 of our second year as TCU. So we're holding steady to about 100 more students than we were. So it's we're creating history, and I find that kind of exciting. Not kind of, very. But yeah, we are. Again, our projection was that our increase would be at our high school. We do need to take a look here at some of our, in particular, kindergarten, which I know is something that we're always watching very carefully as well. And we'll be coming up on kindergarten roundups here in March.
Thank you. Committee updates. First one on there is insurance. Jean?
So we had a
There, it's really at a point in time of just waiting for the bids to be coming in what, March?
Yep, so it was hit a bid year for our staff insurance. The documentation has been reduced, and we wait for bids now at this point. And the request for proposals were released. And yeah, so we will meet again on March 26th with the insurance committee to open the bids. And then at that point, we can either move forward with bids that we've received or choose to rebid. So that'll be our next time that we meet. So the majority of the insurance committee time was spent, we always ground in what we know and what's happened so far with our plan coverage. And then the hit a bid timeline and process, and then we did talk about a few other potential options for our staff. So March 26th is the next point.
And Josh, you and I cannot attend that one because that's the opening of the bids. School board members.
The recommendation from Paul Peterson is not to attend for board members because it makes it a public meeting. And that's important if we do not choose to go with the initial bids, because then the material that would be presented to us would also be public, or we might not want that to be public to the companies that are submitting bids. And then the other thing to note is that whoever from the insurance committee does not attend at that March 26th meeting, actually, if we did have to rebid, could not attend the next one. And so one of the biggest things in the insurance committee is always making sure we have constituency of our largest union group, which is our teachers. So everybody is important on the insurance committee, but always just making sure that we have the right number of teachers for the group, or it's not considered like so. Yes. So you're not like not saying you cannot attend.
Just tell me when you need me to show up. Okay?
Just send me the invitation.
Other committees that have met since our last board meeting.
We had a community ed meeting that was mainly, I mean, we talked briefly about it at our last board session, but talked a lot about our RAP program that's being brought forward as an option, and just hearing about the information from the survey that went out, all the discussions that happened with community providers, and just hearing the other community ed advisory council people, what they kind of initially thought about it and what they would hear. So it was good. But that was the main topic that was discussed.
And we had wellness. Taher sent out some, we haven't talked about this one yet, have we? Wellness committee?
Sorry, I missed it on here. I must have missed it on my calendar.
That's okay. Surveys, favorite foods, that kind of stuff. So we're putting out that. More flexibility, regular milk, chocolate milk, and strawberry milk in all 3 communities. It's pretty amazing. Talking about different types of our gardens that we started last couple years, I guess. They're already starting the seeding process, or we're about to start the seeding process. Looking at some hydroponic lettuce growing. It's crazy. But again, it's something that we might be able to use some of our SHIP grant money for, and then we could have fresh lettuce all year round in all of our sites. And then we talked quite a bit about being supportive of our teachers. The school nurse and Amanda, thank you, talked about the a survey. She didn't remember exactly where. Do you remember this?
I do. It was through a training session that our leadership team is going through, and they had done a survey. It was a Gallup poll survey across the entire nation, and that was a survey of educators or teachers, but this could probably fit with all staff as well. Help me out here though. 70 or 80%?
77%.
Was that the number?
That's what I wrote,
Okay. And you
77%
have
were
good notes.
overstressed. So they're just trying to find more ways of, as we just had discussed with our schools doing the yoga and things like that, just trying to find more ways to de-stress our teachers and administrators. And there's some grants for that she's looking into. And then Superhero Kids, which we talked about. And if anybody didn't know or doesn't know, we do, as the staff and everybody, has full access to the weight room here and that kind of thing. You just need to kind of go through, and there's some forms and whatnot. And there's open swim weekly, again, available, that if you don't know, you don't know. So there's some waivers and things like that. But if you're interested in something, there's a lot of opportunities out there. Look, here. I shouldn't say out there. Here.
Yeah, when we began to talk about some of the things we've done, we went, wow, we really do offer a lot, but we don't brand it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the next step was to ask Tiffany to create like a wellness brand, so that then people start to get that visual of, here's another wellness support for our RTCU staff.
You want to do Q-Comp?
I didn't bring my notes.
Okay, so Q-Comp, January 21st, Staff Development Day Collective, went really well. I think Matt's already gone, right? Really, really well. They talked a lot about common assessment, revisions, power benchmarks, sufficient, consensus. It went really well from my understanding. They had a lot of time to discuss different things across the district. Talked about, it's a 3-year Q-Comp position cycle, so we do have some coaches and teachers and so forth who are up for renewal if they want to continue. February 12th, early release tomorrow. K-6 conferences, so that group really won't be working much on the early release stuff, but the 7-8 looks like I think we're going to concentrate on one-to-one connection and reflection. 9-12, digital learning, common assessment, reflection. Again, let's see. Budget still moving forward. Molly did mention that March 14th, K through 6, in Lonsdale, is probably going to need some time, as with some other areas, for kind of the packing and purging, getting ready to move out for the summer. So that's what we talked about.
Southwest Metro has not met. We meet next Tuesday on the 19th. I think you have a meeting before that, I believe.
That canceled today.
Oh, did you? Okay. I think the biggest item will be the bringing on of 4 schools into Southwest Metro.
We'll get moved to March now. With the change of, due to weather and everything, we just couldn't get enough superintendents to be able to be there on a makeup date.
That's good. New business, 2019-2020 calendar.
This has always been a meet and confer process, and so and meet and confer, we have representation from our teachers and from our administration. They created a vast number of options and narrowed to 3 and brought the 3 forward to our whole staff at the January professional development day, and to gather input and insights. And so this was really the first time we'd actually gotten input from across all of our employee groups rather than just our licensed teachers within the EA. So after the 3, one was kind of more of our traditional type. One was one with a longer winter break, and the option C was more multiple breaks throughout the year and obviously going a little bit longer. And the one that came through as with the strongest support was option B, with we do go back to an after Labor Day start because of the state statute, and because we can't even consider to start early because of construction even though we would meet the statute of $400,000 in construction work to be able to start early, but that would go completely against why we started early last year to get a longer summer. But I think it is something that we may want to look in the future. So there was a lot of positives from it. But with this one, again, after Labor Day start, the 3 days of new teacher workshop, open houses would be determined. Just your regular areas. The main difference here is a full 2 weeks at the winter break, with Christmas and New Year's falling in the middle of the week. So rather than bringing students in on the 23rd or bringing them back then on the 2nd. So gives a little longer break. Something that this does match up with, and some of the attendance data that I'd shared before, is that even though we had October and February showing in the last 2 years of the higher times of the year where there were 3 or more absences in planned vacations, the December time is where we found our longest times of. So we maybe had a 4-day in February, but December was the time where if we were going to see some plan, that typically was in that 10, 12-day kind of thing. So maybe this will have an impact for that. We'll just keep tracking that. Similar thing with the end of the semester occurring mid-January, the President's Day, and in this calendar, the Friday, Monday for a spring break. Last student day would be May 29th, and our teacher workshop would come back on that Monday, June 1st. So within all of the data that was collected, as I said, B was certainly one that had the greatest support, and as we looked at the data in multiple ways, it just kept coming through as that seemed to be the one that had the stronger areas of support, and so that's why we're only bringing one calendar forward to you as a recommendation.
It's a nice calendar.
Pardon me?
I said it's a nice calendar. You get 2 weeks at Christmas and they're still out at the end of May. I mean, that's a win-win all the way around.
Yeah, Hawaiian Christmas in the future.
There you go.
It's
Any
been a
other
long time.
questions or comments for Superintendent Preisler? If not, I will entertain a motion to accept Plan B for the 2019-2020 calendar.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Kevin, second by Marcia. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Thank you. Moving on. Early learning program update. We're going to bring Lane back for just a few more comments. And then what we will do is we will, I will ask for a motion, and then we'll have a discussion if any further needs to be discussed, and then we will vote on that motion. Go ahead.
All right. Superintendent Preisler and members of the TCU School Board, thank you for giving us this opportunity to present to you the discussion about RAP. First thing I want to do is thank the staff members that were involved in putting this all together, I think since December when I first started here. So of course Natalie, our early learning coordinator, Jean, our business manager, Jessie Steepson, she's our youth enrichment coordinator, and of course Terry sat on quite a few meetings, so we really dove into numerous amounts of our programs between the 5 half-day and RAP and how those scenarios would work out. So a lot of countless hours, and so thanks to everybody for their participation in that and their inputs. Again, we are requesting board approval to start a RAP program, child care program, starting in the 2019-2020 school year. This would be for all 3 communities, and just kind of highlight some of the discussions that we have had previously. We presented to the TCU School Board back in January about some of the child care issues that we are experiencing in Greater Minnesota. TCU is no different than what is going on. We had supportive data from the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation through the potential needle analysis that they put together with the partnership with First Children's Finance. Just kind of moving further with that, we talked about RAP and how that would look inside the school district, and we proposed that at this last work session and some of the slides that we had, particularly due to the referendum and the additional classroom spaces that we'll have in Montgomery and Lonsdale. Again, the primary building, we have more than enough room right now to get that started. So we have that capacity. And we started exploring not just the 5 half-day, but the RAP based on the Little Titan survey that we sent out in December, which showed ECFE families showed about a 59% interest in starting a RAP program. And at this time, if approved, our RAP program will be available for those students who are 4 years and up, with the option of 3.5 years old if ratios allow, and if based on enough interest, and who are enrolled in our TCU Little Titans preschool program. The RAP program would be an extension of our Kids Zone school age care program. So when people talk about RAP, RAP is basically like underneath Kids Zone. That's how they work. Whether it's Kids Company in Jordan, Kids Club in Lissa, it's basically just an extension of the programming. Childcare during the school day. So for these, we'd be looking at the students that would be enrolled in the 5-day program. And they would be able to attend RAP either before or after their preschool, their times. And of course, they'd be more than welcome to come at 6 a.m. in the morning and stay until 6 p.m. with the full Kids Zone. So they're not just going to be limited to those times. They'll be full access students. This will be year-round, so if we get this going off in September, next summer, it isn't like they're going to be having to find 3 months of care. They are enrolled in our program. Okay? That's what I have.
Natalie, anything you'd like to add?
No, just thanks for letting us talk at the work session. We did reach out to the daycares. Great conversations at all 3. Obviously they were concerned about business, so we kind of just presented the facts that even if all the child cares are at full capacity, we still have a great need in our area. Lonsdale in particular was the highest. But yeah, great conversations, I think, at all 3. I'm sure you guys heard from some of them, so that was good, which, we wanted to be very transparent. We showed them the same presentation that we showed all of you, same data. But really, this was just birthed out of families wanted 5-day, whether that was half day, full day. So between the desires of families in our program and this need for childcare in our area, we thought this was maybe best case scenario to offer families. So.
And in the presentations that we had in each of the 3 communities, we talked about the 5 half-day proposal and RAP. So it wasn't just going in to talk about RAP because the 5 half-day obviously would affect them as well. Students coming and going.
Board, any questions of Lane or Natalie you'd like to add?
Thank you for your time and efforts working on this project, because I'm sure it was great detail.
It was. Thank you.
Your efforts showed. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
If not, I will entertain a motion for early learning program RAP.
I'll make that motion. Oh, sorry.
To approve the adding the RAP program in each of our communities. Marcia has made that motion.
Second.
Michelle, is there now discussion of this?
I just wanted to say I'm glad that it's another option that our families will get to have in this community, and that I think I was thinking about this more as a board member, and it's like these are the opportunities that we each individually get to make, right? And yes, there's people that are for it, and yes, there's people that are sort of against it, but it's weighing out all 3 of our communities and what's needed, and it's just an option, and it's cool that even if only 3 kids register, it's still going to be an option for those people, or it's the families that need it and can use it, and I think that's what we're all about, so I think that's cool.
Or can choose to go to their provider and still go to our program and go back. Right. So it's not excluding any of our current providers. It's truly offering another option.
It's a choice.
Yeah. We like choice.
And as you're talking about those options, when we do have almost every district near us in those options, since this started, and I remember in my interview in stating, just want us to be able to educate our own. And that's really all this is. This is another option or possibility to educate our own, rather than going somewhere else to find a programming that we don't even offer. But we're very blessed to have the quality preschool providers that we do have. But we do know there's a shortage, and since we studied this 4 years ago, it's become less and fewer.
If no further discussion, we have the motion by Marcia, seconded by Michelle. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation grant.
So that's me, right? Figured I'd just pull up a chair. So they have an early childhood grant every year that goes out, and this was up to a $20,000 amount. They would match half of it. So I wrote a grant in November, I think. And we were chosen as one of the finalists, so they came out to do a site visit in January. But what this grant would be is providing training for myself and then our staff in social and emotional curriculum and how to really help those young families and those little kiddos. So part of that would be with this program expansion, we're going to have additional staff. We're going to need more training. We started second step curriculum this year. We want to continue to roll that out. Part of this grant was written to involve daycare providers and parents at no cost. And so what they would do is our plan was to do 3 evening sessions or Saturdays. We're going to do probably a doodle poll to the providers and families, see what would work best. 1 in each community, 3 different types of content. So they can come to all 3 and get their credits if they want. They can attend the one in their community if that's all they want to do, kind of their level of participation. But the intent would be when they come, it's an hour and a half, it's nice and quick. They get a whole kit of supplies to go home and use it with their kiddos and with their daycares. And so I have 1 phone call into Smith tomorrow to kind of finalize some details on what that funding will look like, but the match could be up to $10,000 for our district. So they would be willing to kick in that 10 if we can do the other 10. So that's kind of the basis of it, is just educating our community. Communities around us do something very similar. I participated one in a neighboring district over the summer, and none of our local daycare providers went. So just thinking, how can we again do that for TCU so that they don't have to go as far? So.
Nice job. Thank you.
Any other questions? For Natalie? If not, I will seek a motion to approve a grant from Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation for an amount up to $10,000.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Ashley,
I'll second it.
second by Josh. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Before we adjourn, I just want the rest of the board, I've received a letter today, is the attached Bureau mediation form notice to desire to negotiate. So Marcia, Josh, and Michelle, right? That's our notification. Just, this is by from the Tri-City United Education Association, that they're asking that we start the process of negotiating the contracts.
Good
Questions about that? You're frowning.
I don't know anything about it, but I'll ask. I'll learn. I'll read it.
Oh, okay.
It's just to start negotiations and get training by your mediation for our interest-based bargaining.
Got it.
Yep.
I'm with you.
If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Ashley, seconded by Krista. Meeting ending at 8:08. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed.
Somebody in the